it was a crazy event that surrounding his overdose, and that was really hard for me because I lost contact with my mother a year prior, and I didn't know where she was because she was bouncing to different locations and stuff. So my father OD'd from heroin, and I went to contact my mother, and I had a hard time getting hold of her. I wanted her to be able to come to the funeral too if she was able. And then I found out that she passed away also. So right around this time of my father ODing, I found out that my mother died from she was a drug addict also, heroin and meth and all that good stuff. And that the drugs had gotten hold of her too in a cancer form, and the cancer just took her really quick. And she was gone. So I say all that to say this, is that, we have certain events and certain tragedies that happen to our life, and we have this desire to remain sober, at the same time. And sometimes these these events come in yearly fashion where we know it's like, well, it brings up the memories. There's no way to not bring up the memories when you have your father's birthday. So the memories come flooding back, but we have to know and recognize the cycle and say, what am I going to do to combat these things that happen in my life that could throw me into a funk and a depression, a spiral, and just an overall, messed up day. So mine is as simplistic as keeping busy. I know that the day is going to be hard. There's going to be people remembering him. Well, I need to keep myself busy and keep focus on doing some work and knocking it out and stuff like that. So awesome. If you have any questions during this process, just go ahead and throw them up there. But we are going to dive in deep to Galatians chapter 5, verse 1. Just one verse. And it is powerful, powerful verse. It says, to stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherein Christ has made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. You see, we have made a stand, right? We have made a stand of sobriety. We have made a stand to be clean and sober. We have made a stand for, if you are a Christian and you're a man, this is who I'm talking to. If you're not, that's okay. But this is what I'm talking about here, is that you have decided to make a stand for Christianity, for faith, and for those sort of things. And so since you have made a stand, Christ says to stand fast in the liberty wherein Christ has made you free. Stand fast in that liberty. What that means is that there's going to be multiple times for us to waver. There's going to be multiple times come up where we are going to want to falter, where we're going to want to sidestep, we're going to be tempted to give up. And we have to understand that we are the ones who have to be empowered by God to maintain that stand. I looked up this word stand fast, and it is powerful. It means to be unchanging in state and condition. That means if you are a man who's on fire for God, you're going to remain unchanged. You're going to remain stationary. You're not going to move. When the temptations to use, or the temptations to cheat, or the temptations for pornography, or whatever it is, you stand fast in the liberty that you have already been given. And this is powerful reality, because I see men all the time that they're not standing fast, right? They're free. Man, Christ has set them free. They do have a choice, and they do have the power to utilize that choice if they want to. But they choose not to stand fast for various reasons. And that is the temptation for the pleasure overtakes them and overtakes their desire for positivity. So we have these two desires, right? And they're in conflict with one another. I taught you about yesterday. And the only way for the good desire to beat the negative desire is to begin to focus all your energy and your power thinking on all the good. And that is your purpose, your why, your family, your relationship, your connection with your wife, your intimacy, building a great business. All these things are on this side. You start building them up. You start focusing on them. And then when this little temptation comes along, you're like, it's not even close to what I want. What I want is all over here. And so you don't have these competing desires. You see, the greatest temptation is that this looks better than this. You know, creating a powerful intimacy with your wife. And if you pour your heart and your mind into those things, when the temptation for pornography or other women or things come along, it's just not that appealing. Because your why is bigger. So that's a powerful thought. Stand fast. That means to be resistant. Be resistant. And you got to know what you want. You have to thoroughly look at your life and your family, faith, fitness, and your finance and ask yourself, what do you want in those areas of your life? Because once you know what you want and why you want it, then you're able to resist the things that don't line up with what you want. See, a lot of men, they haven't fully solidified what they want. They think they want the cheap thrills, right? They think they want the lust, the temptation, the sin, and all that stuff, but it all tastes nasty and it all brings pain. And so they haven't solidified what they actually want and why they actually want it, so they can stand fast in those things and not be swayed from them. So it means to remain resistant. We fall into temptation because we no longer resist, right? We fall into, certain things or lose our sobriety or whatever is because we are not solid. Absolutely, brother. Quick fixes do not fix anything. That is powerful. Powerful. All right, so to stand fast. In what? In what? The liberty. You see, here's the reality of things. If you are a son of God, that you are free. Now, this is just the reality of things. You are free. And many men look at their life and it's a struggle to become free. But they don't understand the basic truth that you already are free. And so it's a struggle to try to get something that you already have. And so we put it out into a future day. We'll say, maybe someday God will deliver me. Maybe someday God will deliver me from this bondage. And the message that I have or that I got from this Bible study is that he already has. Stand fast in the liberty in which Christ has made us free, past tense. Now, he's not going to jump on that cross and do it all over again, right? The work is done. It's complete. We have the freedom and we have the liberty. That means that we have the choice. So the question is are we going to stand fast in our liberty or not? And we have to make that decision. But we are free. You see, and with that thought comes a lot of responsibility, because that means I'm not waiting on God to do something. A lot of times we're waiting on God to do something that he has already done, right? We're waiting on him to do something that he has already done. And so what we need to do is take our responsibility and understand that we are free men with the freedom of choice. And I can choose to be empowered by the Spirit of God to accomplish great things in my life, or I could choose to serve the flesh, this godless, sinful nature. I could choose that and therefore reap the nasty fruit of it. But at any rate, it's my choice because Christ has made us free. If you're a man and you're out there and you're saying, someday God will deliver me, my message from this Bible study is, he already has. But for some reason, you are not choosing to walk in it. And the harsh truth and the harsh reality of personal responsibility is going to set you free. You see, one of the biggest problems we have as people who are addicted or just sinful in general is that we blame shift. And we blame all these other people, right? We blame all these other people, but we fail to take responsibility for our choices. Thanks, brother. All right, so stand fast in what? Stand fast in the liberty that Christ has made us free. And don't what? Don't be entangled again. Because what he was saying is that I've already made you free. I already did the work. I already accomplished everything that you need to be successful. Don't be entangled again to the yoke of what? The bondage. Yoke of bondage. So we could come to Christ and we could be made free, but somewhere along the way, instead of becoming a disciple, instead of listening to the Spirit of God, instead of, getting into his word, we could choose slavery again. And I believe Peter said it was like a dog returning to its own vomit, right? The dog returning to its own vomit. And we return back to the same things that mess us up. So this idea of yoke, I'm pretty sure we're familiar with how oxen are yoked together, and they attach this wood beam to the neck, and they attach it to another animal so they can work together. And we have a decision on which yoke that we put on. We can put on the yoke of bondage and go back to the weak and beggarly elements of this world and go ahead and live and serve the flesh and all of those things. Or we can put on the yoke of Christ that says, my yoke is easy and my burden is light, and you'll find rest for your souls. Now all of a sudden we're yoked together with the Spirit of God, and we're empowered by him, and we're working together, and things are going awesomely because we have chosen the yoke of life instead of the yoke of bondage. And these are small choices every single day. It's resisting a DM that drops in there that wants you to go to a website. It's taking the responsibility to make deposits into your wife through date night, through flowers, through communication, through spending time together. It's all these small little choices that we're choosing which yoke to put on. Are we going to put on the yoke of bondage, or are we going to put on the yoke of Christ? And it's our choice. You see, the yoke of bondage is oppressive. And it takes away from what you really want to do. You might really want to create intimacy with your wife, right? But instead you get the yoke of bondage of pornography. And it leads you down another path, and you settle for the cheap substitute instead of the real thing. Deep inside your heart, you want intimacy. You want the connection. You want all those things. But you decide for an oppressive substitute that uses you and abuses you. That's crazy, crazy powerful. So the choice is ours today. Do we want to be a servant of Christ, or be a servant of bondage into these oppressive agents? And here's the reality of everything, that we could trust in the Spirit of God to empower us to live the life that we want. And that empowerment comes when we take a stand. It always comes when you take a stand. And look at every single Bible story, and you will find when they took a stand, the power came. 3 Hebrew children, they're in the fire. They took a stand for what they believed. And guess what? The power came. Daniel in the lion's den took a stand. And guess what? The power came. So the message of God today is take a stand. Stand fast in that liberty and say, you know what? I'm the kind of person, I'm the kind of man that's going to stand fast in my liberty, and I'm not going to get entangled again into the yoke of bondage. And I'm going to do this by the power and the Spirit of God that resides inside of me.